जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेव टॉक्स। दिस इज आदि अचिंत। मेरे साथ हैं डॉक्टर विजय सजावल, जो हमको बताएंगे एक कहानी। मैं इनके बारे में थोड़ा सा इंट्रोडक्शन देता हूँ। सबसे पहले मैं आपको बताऊंगा, इनकी एक किताब है जिसका नाम है कश्मीर क्रॉनिकल्स। ठीक है, ये एक कश्मीरी ऑब्वियसली पॉलिटिकल एनालिस्ट हैं, कमेंटेटर हैं। इन्होंने काफी काम करा है, काफी स्टडी करी है। He's written extensively, as a matter of fact, about the turmoil. इनकी एक वेबसाइट है kashmirforum.org, प्लीज डो चेक इट आउट। बहुत उसके अंदर आपको डिटेल्स मिल जाएंगी। एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट, ही इज द फाउंडिंग मेंबर ऑफ द इंडो अमेरिकन कश्मीर फोरम। ये यूएस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, यूएस कांग्रेस के थिंक टैंक्स के साथ काम करते हैं। एंड ऑफ कोर्स ही इज आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ द कश्मीरी डायस्पोरा, जो जिन्होंने इनको अवार्ड्स भी दिए हैं। एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट, 2019 में ही वाज ऑनर्ड विद द हिंदू अमेरिकन फाउंडेशन अवार्ड for the advancement of human rights for his lifelong contributions to advancing human rights for minorities in Kashmir. Namaskar, sir. Thank you so much आपके टाइम के लिए and for helping us, trying to give us your expertise as to what what has happened and थोड़े से also insights की आगे क्या करना चाहिए.
Thank you. I am thankful for you to give me this opportunity to talk to you and your audience. मेरी obviously मेरी interest अभी बढ़ी जबकि कश्मीर में हंगामा हुआ 1989-1990 में, जिसमें कि काफ़ी basically insurgency start हो गई और insurgency से there was उसमें violence भी हुआ, उसमें माइनॉरिटीज़ को बहुत सफ़र करना पड़ा। उसमें माइनॉरिटीज़ दे फ्लड, वो निकल गए वहाँ से। और मुझे चिट्ठियाँ आने लगी हमारे लोगों से कि भाई हमारे बारे में कोई बात ही नहीं करता इंडिया में, भारत में कोई बात ही नहीं करता है। आप अमेरिका में बैठे हो, आप वर्ल्ड के लीडिंग कंट्री में हो, आपको हमारी आवाज़, आप हमारी आवाज़ लोगों तक बता दीजिए। तब तक मुझे ये सेंस नहीं थे कि इंडियन गवर्नमेंट की साइलेंस हो गई इस इशू पर। मैं आपको 1990 की बात कर रहा हूँ, आज की नहीं, आज तो सबको मालूम है, बट उन दिनों तो कोई बात ही नहीं करता है। और वो उन दिनों बहुत वीक गवर्नमेंट भी थी इंडिया में, वीपी सिंह थे, और उसके बाद भी काफ़ी 3-4 साल की चंद्रशेखर जी, और काफ़ी मतलब गवर्नमेंट वाज बेसिक नॉन फंक्शनल। ये तो भगवान की ये ब्लेसिंग है कि इंडिया को उन दिनों did not get attacked or anything like that, because I don't think what would have happened. So we picked up the cause, but मेरी ऐसी थी कि मैं already involved था in some state negotiations with other countries on behalf of my corporation, जहाँ मैं काम करता था in the nuclear power. And so I was already kind of used to understanding how the political systems in America work, and how to deal with it, how to make the case in a certain way. So जब हम स्टार्ट हो गए, जो ये किताब है कश्मीर क्रॉनिकल्स, ये किताब है 1986 to 2023. That is the period it is covered in this book. And मैं इसकी सिग्निफिकेंस अभी बताता हूँ आपको। 86 की सिग्निफिकेंस क्या है। तो वहाँ हमने देखा कि इसमें, इस किताब में आपको मिलेगा वॉशिंगटन पोस्ट का आर्टिकल, जो कि 1991 में लिखा गया था। और उस आर्टिकल, वॉशिंगटन पोस्ट इज द सेकंड लीडिंग न्यूज़पेपर इन अमेरिका आफ्टर न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स। तो उसमें 1990 में उसमें उन्होंने हमारे, आफ्टर वी वर परसिस्टिंग विद देम टू पब्लिसाइज आवर केस, क्योंकि इंडिया में कोई बात ही नहीं करता है, एनजीओ नहीं बात कर रहे हैं, प्रेस नहीं बात कर रहा, गवर्नमेंट बात नहीं करी, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट कश्मीर की बात नहीं करी। तो उन्होंने एम्बेसडर से यहाँ कांटेक्ट किया, उसको बताया कि ये कश्मीरी पंडितों को क्या हो रहा है। उसने एडमिट किया, एंड दिस पेपर इज सेइंग दैट, एंड दैट्स इन द बुक। उसने एडमिट किया कि हाँ, कश्मीरी पंडितों को निकाला गया, मगर हम लोगों ने पॉलिसी डिसीजन लिया है कि हम कश्मीरी पंडितों के बारे में नहीं बात करेंगे, हम इंडिया पाकिस्तान और टेररिज्म, प्रॉक्सी टेररिज्म की बात करेंगे। उसी पर हमारा एम्फोसिस है, तभी हम उसमें मतलब वो इसकी बात नहीं करेंगे। और फिर यही एम्बेसडर था जो कि जब मैंने फाइनली कांग्रेस में आई वाज एबल टू मेक अ स्पीच एंड आई यूज द वर्ड इस्लामिक टेररिज्म. He called me. उसने उसके नेक्स्ट मैन व्हिच इज द डीसीएम, उनका नाम उन दिनों ललित मान सिंह था, वो बाद में एम्बेसडर भी बन गए. ललित मान सिंह ने मुझे बुलाया, कहा कि एम्बेसी पर. तो मैं गया एम्बेसी पर. उन्होंने कहा कि यही हमारे एम्बेसडर आबिद हुसैन जी बड़े नाराज हैं. मैंने कहा क्या? कि उसने कहा कि आपने टर्म इस्लामिक टेररिज्म की, ये तो ऑक्सीमोरॉन है. इस्लाम तो इस्लाम इज रिलीजन ऑफ पीस, और आप तो रिलेट कर रहे हैं इस्लाम और टेररिज्म को. तो आप देख रही है, मैं अब उसमें जाऊंगा नहीं, बट ये माइंड सेट था इंडियंस का. ये माइंड
जी
सेट था इंडियन पब्लिक का और इंडियन डिप्लोमेट्स का और इंडियन गवर्नमेंट का. एंड कहाँ से कहाँ पहुंचे, दैट इज दैट्स अ मैटर ऑफ टाइम. बट वी वर वर्किंग इन दैट काइंड ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट जहाँ पर के कोई मतलब कोई सपोर्ट, कोई पब्लिसिटी, कोई कुछ नहीं हुआ, और हम लोगों ने ये स्टार्ट किया. बट आई स्पेंट लॉट ऑफ टाइम. आई क्रिएटेड दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विद सम फ्रेंड्स ऑफ आवर्स फ्रॉम आवर कम्युनिटी. और हमने फिर वी स्टार्टेड. आई वाज द मोस्ट विजिबल फेस मेनली बिकॉज एज आई सेड, मेरी 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 ट्रेनिंग थी, मेरी प्रोफेशनल एक्सपीरियंस थी इन डीलिंग विद diplomats and administrators in the U.S. administration and abroad. So we got to the point where we actually then started, being present in the U.S. Congress, administration, in the UNHRC, at human rights, in even I've spoken in British Parliament. So what we but as I went along in this process of learning, I also found out that I could not talk about Kashmiri Pandits in a standalone basis. Kashmir problem had to be solved on a holistic basis to
हम्म
give relief to essentially all the people, including Kashmiri Pandits. So and so that there is where I learned a lot. If I use that particular pattern, and I found out I could even make our case even stronger if I took that holistic approach to the issue. And and that holistic approach really tells you that from 19 what happened was on 20th February 1986 was then there was a Kashmir was struggling, power struggle in the family of Abdullahs between the brother and the son-in-law, and there were two different power sources at that time. And Mr. So while the Abdullah family is sort of fighting with each other, and Kashmiri Pandits were basically irritated by some of the decisions that were being made by the two aspects of the ruling family. Mr. Mahmoud Mufti ji, he was the president of Congress Party those days, and Rajiv Gandhi was, of course, the prime minister. And he said, okay, this is a good time for me to get into the picture. If I can somehow get create law and order situation, and then I can write to Rajiv ji to go and get a governor's rule here, so we can get rid of the Abdullah family, because he was always at odds with them. तो उन्होंने कश्मीरी पंडितों के मकान जला दिए, उन्होंने उनके उनके टेम्पल्स डिस्ट्रॉय किए in Anantnag district, small villages all spread all over the south of Kashmir, and they destroyed those things. A lot of people got, this was a shell shock to us, because
जी
criminal riots against Kashmiri Pandits, when quite frankly they were not even this is a family feud between Abdullah and his brother-in-law, and this is on one side, and this is the I said earlier son-in-law, no, it's brother-in-law, and on the other side, Mufti capitalizing on the political mayhem by creating a physical mayhem in terms of a violence
हम्म
against Kashmiri Pandit. So he did get the governor's rule, obviously, because he was the head of the Congress party. But surprising thing was there was hardly any mention of it in any Indian national newspaper. Of course, Kashmir government didn't even act and react like there's something had happened. They acted like, they just ignored the event. There was no police case established.
जी,
There was not a single FIR written. There was no SIT ever established. And even worse, there was no mention at the central government level asking the state to explain what happened. That never happened.
correct.
And I think the message went very clearly to the secessionists, to the insurgents, that hey, Indian government really doesn't,
Open.
give, I will not say the word about this minority Kashmiri pundits. So we can basically pretty much do whatever we want because there is no accountability of law and order or the rule of law in the state. That's all. That's it's all a matter of expediency, and that's really created the environment where actually you can argue that some of the Qatar जो ये secessionist थे,
Separatist.
Yasir Malik वगैरह वगैरह, they created this Muslim United Front, and they wanted to fight the elections, and they would have actually won those elections had
Yeah,
that
yeah.
elections been allowed. And you would have had essentially a weak central government, because by that time VP Singh had already come in as the when the elections took place of MUP. So they would have created havoc. But lot of people talk about a very interesting 87 as being the turning point in Kashmir. The fact is, it was 86 actually which
86
created the situation that allowed 87 to
actually
exist.
happened. Mm.
And so that is, and my advocacy began then because I wrote to New York Times. I wrote to New York Times. I hid my name. I fudged my name because my family was still obviously in Srinagar. I said, "Hey, what's going on? This thing, this thing has happened to this ancient 5,000-year culture in Kashmir, and nobody seems to be bothered by it."
Talking about it. Mm.
Yeah, and surprisingly, maybe it was divine intervention or what, they actually called me from New York, and they told me, "Are you so and so?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "We have got your letter." I said, "Well, are you going to publish it?" He said, "Well, we were thinking about it, but the problem is you're telling us Hindus are being, are being subject to violence in what we consider to be Hindu India." I said, "Yes, and you need to, you can check it out yourself. It's not like it cannot be." And so they said, "All right, we'll send our correspondent in Delhi, who was Stephen Wiseman at that time, to Srinagar." And so you will see in the book there is a correspondence between me to New York Times and Stephen Wiseman's report to me back after he came from his trip, where he recognized, yes, they have destroyed
There's
homes
something
and
wrong.
Kashmiri
Mm.
Pandit. So that's where my advocacy began, and that's why the book starts from 86. And of course, 2023 is of course last year when I considered that final action by the Indian government, when essentially we had the Supreme Court substantiate that the validity of abrogating Article 370. So in a sense, uh, in Kashmir's period of turmoil really is between 86, the recent one. I mean, there have been historically many other turmoil, but the recent one began in 86, and I would say ended in 2023, in the sense that the political side of the issue was all there, and there also is, in a sense, between those two bookends, you have all the things that I did in that period. I did obviously the international diplomacy. In the international diplomacy, I already told you about Washington Post covering the story. There is also the fact that my dealings were when both Vajpayee ji and Manmohan Singh ji both paid Indian taxpayer money to the convicted killer Yasin Malik to go to America and be treated as a VIP treatment. And I challenged him in various think tanks where which in where, in Washington D.C. And so that element is described there. Uh, we also did a press conference in Geneva in UNHRC premises, the only Kashmiri Pandit conference ever, or for that matter, I don't think any particular Aboriginal people have had conferences done there. So we actually there's a lot of international aspects of the story, and then you have then the other section deals with the India-Pakistan, the regional dynamics on Kashmir, and some of the original things that you find there is a deep dive in the Agra, what happened in Agra in the 2001
Musharraf
discussion.
Summit.
Yeah, you now recently, about 2 years back or a year and a half back, there is a book that has come out by a diplomat from there, which actually one-on-one matches with my article that I obviously published just after the article, because I had my sources actually within the Indian mission, who were absolutely shattered by how poorly essentially the Indian Indian delegation did in Agra. It was really you have to read it to believe how 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 unprofessional Indian team acted, in the sense they kind of accepted the notion Musharraf proposed, which was no agenda. I'm going to come to this meeting without. We don't need an agenda. We'll come over there. And there is Indian team which has been sitting there having, late midnight discussions on various elements of CBMs that they want to discuss with Pakistan, and make them feel like we can make progress. And then this guy says, "Well, I'm not going to bring any teams or anything like that here because I'm just going." I mean, and these people just took it in. The national security team with Mr. Vajpayee was absolutely unprofessional, and in my mind, very immature, politically immature. And so the encounter I call that article "Encounter in Agra," and because I really think it was an encounter rather than a diplomatic sort of passage. And I talk about the events after that which affected in the Kashmir. So the chapter is on Kashmir and Kashmiri street politics, as I call it. We had the Amarnath uprising
Yeah.
2008, which led to the stone pelting. And it's a deep dive. So you'll really get information that you rarely see anywhere else about that. The same thing a year later, you had the Shupian, where the two girls who drowned, where they made it look like they wanted to say that army raped them and killed them. And it was funny because then CBI, my report came out, and this event happened in July of 2008. I'm sorry, 2009. My report came out in September of 2009. After I did a analysis, got all the information firsthand, and then CBI in December basically pretty much concluded the same conclusions that I have in the article. I didn't change anything in my article, which is in the book. And then I think 3 years back or 2 years back, you had actually a Supreme Court ruling also in that regard, that it's kind of the same thing. But one of the most interesting things on this on the dynamics of the valley, the street politics of the valley, which many people don't realize, was one of the phenomenal discussions. One of the phenomenal events was when Burhan Wani was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Burhan Wani was killed, which was in
What? Yeah.
2016, July 2016, what people didn't realize at that time, when I say people, I should really be saying Modi ji. What Prime Minister Modi ji didn't realize was the tentacles that insurgents had within the civilian bureaucratic architecture of the valley. And so what happened was that it was a very shameful event in that sense for BJP, because BJP was a partner in the state, and of course BJP was leading Modi ji was in 2 years in power in Delhi, and suddenly Kashmir blows up, and hundreds of people are killed, and then when the body of Burhan Wani he's taken out as a martyr, and there's almost 30,000, 40,000 people in the procession with him. So he basically brought his security team together and he said, "What's going on? I got to know what's going on." And from there, essentially, they realized that Mufti Mehbooba Mufti wasn't really running was the chief minister, mostly doing perhaps chief ministership over Jammu region, but the valley itself was pretty much under Ali Shah Jilani. He
Hmm.
was the one who was basically dictating the ins and outs of what needs to be done. I mean, he was basically in charge of all the personnel transfers, personal changes, all the up to the SP level people that are basically done at the chief minister's recommendations without the input from center. All those things
Hmm.
were done by him. And same thing with bureaucrats, all the JKAS, even some local IS, lower tier. So he was running the show, and it was a shock in Delhi. So one of the first things that went out was that, hey, if any because they couldn't control JKAS people, the local local
Administration.
administration. So they basically told those guys, you get a call from him and you answer it. You're going to be transferred to Ladakh or somewhere remotely, Arunachal or something like that. So don't take, he's not going to be running the thing. It's going to be run by the government. And that was one of the major factors actually that led him to subsequently, when the delegation came into Valley, and he refused to see the delegation, which actually is recognized now. The parliamentary delegation I'm talking about, when they
Hmm.
tried to
Hmm.
go up to him, and he refused to see him because he was basically, he had been insulted, that
Smarting.
he had lost the power. And it was actually, he was encouraged at that time by Mufti Mahbooba Mufti to do so. But later, I would say about 2 years back, Mufti Mahbooba Mufti, after after 2019, she admitted that that was a mistake. I should have, he should have been, I should have encouraged him to see those parliamentarians, because
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
mind, she felt like that made the job of the BJP government easier to get the abrogation of Article 370 done, because that step was unfortunate, that she had the support of, she took the support of some of the opposition members. And they are, when opposition members are showing up at Alisha Jilani's door, he refuses to let them come in. um, so that is all. So that sort of aspect. Then one of the deals that was made in 1996, when Abdullah came to power, was that all the jobs, he basically negotiated a deal. I mean, actually, he didn't do it. Mr. Dullat did, and to the credit of those people who know him, I mean, he's one of the most anti-national people. But that's the nature of the Indian power politics.
Ecosystems.
Yeah.
Ecosystem.
So the deal was that he will be allowed to operate as the chief minister, as long as the positions that were being filled by the vacating positions that have been vacated by Kashmiri Pandits would be filled by Jamaat Islami people that will be recommended
Orders.
by Jamaat Islami. So, and that was a deal that Indian government accepted, because they were so desperate to show legitimacy of civilian government there. And there was a big difference, though, I can tell you, between Abdullah and Mufti. Mufti was actually in hand with Ali Shah Jilani. This guy wasn't. He was doing his own things, but we had no. There was no JNK administrative board, source selection board. The selection boards that JKSSB that they have now. Merit basically everybody that Abdullah Jilani recommended basically filled up those positions. So that's why you have a vast arsenal. So by 2016, when when Wani was killed, they found out there's a vast growth of these people in the bureaucracy. They have brought
Yeah.
their own people, and they fill up the people behind them and all that. So, but the dimension of the problem became very clear in 2016. And all that is mentioned in the article, because I did one of the articles that I did, which I did only after the targeted killings of Kashmiri Pandits was done more recently. When from 19 2000 20 onwards, that took place after Gilani died, or when he was actually losing in health, not in good health. So we had those killings started, and so I did the analysis in 2021 with the data, talking to a lot of people. And what was interesting was that paper made it to the Chinar Corp in Srinagar, and I actually got an invitation from Major Vishwarao, Sanjay Vishwarao, to come and see him if I'm ever in the valley. So I took a trip to the valley, and he thanked me. And then later, he didn't tell me that, but later I realized that they had also prepared a 32-page report on the targeted killings and sent it to the center. But their report was politically correct. They couldn't say things. Whereas my report basically had the names and mentioned what all happened, and that report is also included in the book. And they said, you said things which, so we also send your report as along
Backup.
the lines. And actually, you see the flag there on my shelf there. That is actually the Indian flag that Jalal Vishwarao gave to me in that trip.
Nice.
So one of the interesting things that I found out, which again will be a surprise to people, as much as Sayyid Ali Shah Jilani was the kind of the law of the Islamic hold over Kashmir, and literally had the finger on the button who lives and who dies. Once Pakistan never, at least to my knowledge, based on inferences, I don't know, have a direct knowledge. I mean, I don't have a direct data on that, but I have inference and knowledge that they would not, nobody would be killed, nobody prominent would be killed in Kashmir without his giving the nod that go ahead, and he was a final arbiter of that. So that was Gunny Loan, there was other people, those were all basically done with he had to give a nod before that action would be actually taken. So there he is, basically karta dharta of the of the
The game,
Islamic.
literally.
Yeah, but he did have one interesting directive that he had given to people, that you will not harm Kashmiri Pandits.
Why
So the
was that, sir?
Kashmiri, because he really didn't think that they were in the way. He really didn't think that they had any, from his perspective, his perspective was very clear. His perspective was Kashmir should be part of Pakistan. That was his overriding, goal. Kashmir should be, and he didn't see Kashmiri Pandits as being necessarily the people that he had to kill to make that happen. So you will actually see on the day he took over as the head of the Tehreek Jamaat, Tehreek Hurriyat, TEH. From that day to the day he actually left TEH, he resigned from TEH, and then of course, and when he resigned from TEH, then literally after 2-3 months he got sick, and eventually,
Yeah.
the year later, there was not a single Kashmiri Pandit killed. Now you'll say, is that the only data you have? No, I don't. I have more data because I know of instances personally, because I have been dealing. The thing I didn't tell you yet about is that my specialty is I have been dealing with the people on Kashmiri Pandits in the valley uh, uh, exclusively ever since I got involved in the Kashmir issue. That's my sort of that's my ground. That's my field. I didn't interact to Kashmiri Pandits who are out of the valley that much. I know many of them. I know their leaders most, but I know a lot more about what is going on in the valley. And I know in times when they were under threat, and I was in communication with them, we actually did arrange for somebody to make a call to Jilani Saab and tell him that this family is being harassed at this particular place. There are people shouting slogans outside, "Come out, come out," and very soon thereafter, those guys would disappear. So we have actually seen that. They were near Sothu and all that. I mean, there were two instances. So So he had, I mean, I haven't met him firsthand to ask me why, but I think people who met him, Kashmiri Pandits who have seen him, basically he always said, you know, you guys are sort of soft-spoken, non-violent people. I don't want to see any harm come to you guys. So it's very interesting, that was a different Gilani that many people don't know about. I mean, you have to recognize as an analyst. You said I was an analyst. As an analyst, I can't be taken over by my prejudices. I have to take the data on its stand, and the data is very clear that in the period that he was the emir of Jamaat Islami in the valley, Kashmiri Pandits actually had a sort of pseudo protection and lived. Now, of course, their number was very small. Now, we can come to Kashmiri Pandits now, because that's also mentioned in the book. Kashmiri Pandits actually, when 19, when they were, we estimate they were of the order of about 3 to 3.5 lakhs in the valley in 89. When the instances happened between 89 and 90, I think most of them left, but there were still about 30 to 35,000 which were living by 1990, 1991 to about 35,000.
Okay.
Now the question though became their economic well-being was not being defined, because they were these are the people who basically had fled from the many of them were actually in the villages. They were forced to sort of be displaced by the government. They brought them to the housing, some of the vacated housing by Kashmiri Pandit itself in some of the Tahsil's headquarters. So they would move them from the outlying villages and hamlets for security reasons. They would force them out of their homes and brought them here. But they didn't really give them anything to, they didn't, they were basically sort of brought in and they were just left. And so these people were in extremely dire state of, and the crazy part was, if you stayed in the valley, you didn't get any help. But if you left the valley, then you would get help in Jammu. This is almost diabolical to think that your own country's government is actually against people of your who have shown the courage to stay back and shown the courage to hang in there, not leave, and yet they were not given any support. So when 1996 was the next marker, 1996, just before the election, IB was asked to take count Tahsil by Tahsil, which became much easier than now, because they were all, as I said, concentrated. They were not any more remote villages or hamlets where these were. So they counted it, and they were 16,000. 16,000 Kashmiri Pandits were there at that time.
Wow.
And again, economic reasons. No, absolutely no help. When I got back into the valley, which was in early 2000, I actually found people starving. I actually found Kashmir. Now, it's very interesting. I traveled through Jammu, and Jammu people said, what are you going? I said, I'm going to Kashmir Valley. He said, are you crazy? That's mid 2000s. Are you crazy? This is a place, which is. I said, no, I got to meet the people that I've been talking to on the phone all the time, and and they said, oh, they have already become Muslims, so why are you bothered about them? Because they don't worry about them. That's how actually Kashmiri Pandits outside the valley thought of Kashmiri Pandits in the valley. And when I get there, I really find a bunch in a very pathetic, isolated condition. Phones had not, in 2001, cell phones and all that were not that prevalent. Some had, but most didn't, and the service was very spotty. And people didn't really. They were living in fear, and they were also essentially eating at least one meal either at a Gurdwara langar or at a Sufi shrine langar. I mean, this is our India. These are Hindus. Nobody's talking about them outside. Even their own community members aren't talking outside about them. And there, that really moved me. And as I said, I've spent nearly 3 decades essentially, in their welfare. And actually, this book, when you see the book, you'll turn to the dedication page, and the dedication page says that the last count was there is it's in the parliament question that was raised, which was answered, which said the how many families didn't leave the Kashmir Valley at all, and it's 808. So I have dedicated this book to those 808 family members, and I saw their love for the. When I went there, obviously my question to them, "What are you doing here if you're starving?" And they said, "Well, you know what? We are going to have a mandli today at the Trikrishwari temple. You want to come there?" I said, "Sure." You sit there and you listen to those hymns, you listen to those bhajans, you cry. You really realize that is our culture there. That's our origin there. That's where our parents lived, died, our grandparents, the land of our ancestors. That's where our religion is. So I can see why those people didn't leave in spite of the fact they had nothing. Now, I will also tell you, they are very enterprising people. Today, no, nobody in that group, even after 10 years, quite frankly, was in the same shape. I think by 2018, 19, most of them were fully gainfully employed in, either in a tourist sector or in land, real estate, or had found jobs. But they were, but they had stuck. And to me, they are the brave people. They are the heroes. And so I mentioned about them, and I even there's the analysis of what it was like when they had been there for the dark period when there was nobody talking about them. I'm proud to say I'm still in touch with them, and I have a lot of respect for those people. Now, of course, today there's a different mix. There is a mix of those people, and then there is a mix of the prime minister's package employees that have come in. So that has added sort of a different color. I think the big change that took place was actually during the time I was there in Srinagar, which was at the height of the strike. When the employees went to Jammu and said, "We don't want to go back." But today there's a realization actually that staying back there was actually not a bad idea. They have a lot more things going on there, and so we have so I would say today you have almost about a critical mass of about 10,000 Kashmiri Pandits there living in Kashmir. And then at every tourist opportunity of every at major religions, that number goes to as high as 30,000, 40,000. So and there are quite a few of those days that you get them in the valley. So you have you have essentially in a sense you have now the critical mass to preserve your culture and your identity in the valley. So the book addresses those in a series of papers. It's not a continuous one sort of one chapter to other chapter. It's basically a series of you can say snapshots taken at a certain time to tell you what's going on and what to think. But basically that's what the book is about. And I think if readers get it and it's available on Amazon, they will really enjoy it. It's not, and again, it's not one of those things where I say, "What happened to my family?" Yeah, my family was also kicked out. Our house was also burned. But I didn't want to write about that because that is kind of thing that everybody has written about in Kashmir, their
Hmm.
personal experiences. So I didn't think I wanted to add that value because that has no value. I wanted to show what did we do, especially since none of this information was made available to most of the people in India about what Kashmiri Pandits did when the government was basically openly hostile. Government of India, you forget about government of Jammu and Kashmir. Government of India was openly hostile to them because they wouldn't ever carry a sense of our cause. It's very funny because I was working for a excuse me, I was working for a French company. I was a vice president of a French company, headquartered in Paris, and at one time, not all my career, but at one time. And in those, and again, this was the divine intervention. It was the years when we were discussing Kashmir in Geneva. So what I would do is I would have these tickets. Uh, I used to travel to Paris like every 4 to 6 weeks, and and uh, and whenever there would be a session in Geneva on Kashmir, I would basically take a train and run from North Station North to Geneva. And in Geneva, I had a member of our sister organization, Indo-European Kashmir Forum, by the name of Avtar Tikku. Avtarji is still there, still a good friend. And I would stay at his home, and I would go and make the case at the UN HRC, where I was member of an accredited association that I had essentially paid money to get my name listed as their member. And in one of those meetings, we actually made this case that we will actually have do the session on on the how Kashmir government has Abdullah, basically Farooq Abdullah, created the problem for us and things like that. And we had that session. That session was the one where actually Vajpayee was there as the foreign minister, and and
Ah,
and Farooq Abdullah was a member of the delegation. So we met with Vajpayee ji in the evening, and Vajpayee said, well, there were a couple of he had there were Indian representatives who had also come on Indian NGOs or maybe with government's help or whatever. Then he turns to me and he said, "You did you say you are from America?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Why shouldn't I be here? Because my people are in this situation." He said, "No, because you see, Abdullah Dr. Saab is telling me that what is this guy doing here? Is he a CIA agent?" Is he a CIA agent? And that's mentioned in the book. And he wondered, what was his? Why would he come from America to here? I mean, this is because in India the sense is that only people who travel out are the ones who basically get tickets from the Indian government, and so that was the nature of that discussion. But by and large, because of the fact that I was actually involved in negotiations for the I had the professional training as a pseudo diplomat. I even have signed papers representing the government of the United States against Bulgaria and things like that at one time or the other. So I was able to negotiate all the way through these things. And then uh, um, after 2016, what I realized is, what I found out, that essentially Modi ji had set up the clock for the he put Arun Jaitley ji in charge. He put this committee together, which basically would, and his directive was only one, that he wanted it to happen before the election, so to say. And but whatever we do, it has to be done in a legal before the next state assembly election, mind you, not
mm,
before the next state. And whatever we do has to be legal so that it passes the Supreme Court test. And then they went through that process. I don't know if people realize it. They actually put the calendar, and unfortunately, Arunji was already, his health was so bad. He was, though he was alive, he didn't carry the whole process himself. But he was the mastermind who actually put the timetable together. So you put the timetable together that elections in Kashmir are going to be happening in September, October, November of 2019. So whatever you have to do, it has to be done
before.
before May or June of June, July, something like that, 2000. And to do that, then you got to go back and say, when do you initiate the process? Then you have essentially the Article 263 Act, which will be Parliament acting as the as a pseudo state assembly floor for the actions, which requires you to be in the parliamentary, which means you have to be out of the governor's rule, which is to be 6 months full stretch. And then you have to, before that, you have to make sure that you have a government that basically can be thrown away at the drop of the hat without any consequences. So they went through all that process to set the timetable of how and when you got to start, so that you can get to the end where basically this thing can be done in August, before the election commission issues the order, and then you can't do anything. So
Mm.
there was a timetable there. Now, in terms of how they proved the validity that Supreme Court will not challenge this decision. They had a test. The test was in March of 2019. They had one of the big problems they had was, as the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs told them, we don't have a majority in the Rajya Sabha. So we can Lok Sabha, no problem. Rajya Sabha, how do we get that? So
Mm.
there our parliamentary minister for parliament, I'm trying to remember his name, he huddled with the people, and they came up with the formula that we can get, if we can get some bill passed on on Kashmir, which helps some segment of the society that one of the political parties, national political parties, believes in. That's how we'll get the support. To cut the long story short, they went to Mayawati. So they said, Mayawati ji, we need your help, and here's what we would like to do. Would you agree to help us if we pass a bill through the in Jammu and Kashmir, against essentially the Dalits and all that, where they get representation in the political sphere, which is denied right now under the old JNK's constitution. They don't recognize, the the SC/ST category people. And she said, "What do I have to do? Well, we will pass the bill. We will expect you in your party to support it." She said, "I absolutely, and we will hope that." Doing this, you will also support us subsequently in another bill which is related to the same one. So I guess they got some. I mean, I don't know exact words. So what they did is they actually passed that bill representing the. So it was a state bill on Jammu and Kashmir on SC/ST. It was passed through the parliament, acting as a de facto state assembly in March. And then
Mm.
there was a lot of eyebrows raised. Hey, how can they have state assembly being run in the parliament? I mean, the state assembly is not functional right now. It has been dissolved, and you are passing it, for the. So that got tested at that time. There were lawyers who went to the Supreme Court and all that, and they were told that it's under that Article 356. It's absolutely legal. So they had actually the legal basis. Now, but of course, Supreme Court doesn't only make decisions on legal basis. They also, there's a little bit of political influence, which also they have to see how the mood of the public and things like that. But Modi
Yeah.
created mood for them, so they had no problem. But legality was assured because they had done this test in March, before they actually put this bill in the first week of August. So. Those are some of the policy things that people will find out when they read this book.
The stories are so funny that you find everything just clicked into place at that time. But so one thing that, if I may request you to cover
Mhm.
as the last segment of this on
Mhm.
wonderful conversation, is that do you think the steps Modi ji has taken, the Kashmir policy as per se, a lot of people still say that Kashmiri Pandits can't go back, and a lot of criticism is um, given to him for this particular thing. I am of the firm belief that things take time. You can't. It was a pogrom, literally a genocide of so many people 30 years ago, and it takes time. 40 years ago, it takes time for things to normalize. uh, there are still incidents here and there which create that environment of fear and everything like that. But how do you think going forward into the future, will normalcy, will the pundits go back into their places? A lot of them still do want to. A
Well,
lot of them don't want to anymore. Because they've
well,
moved on in life and stuff. But what do
well.
you
Let me
think?
tell
What
you,
do you
I have discussed this with very senior officials in the U.S. I mean, in the Indian government, both
think?
at the Prime Minister's office level as well as at the National Security NSA Directorate. I have done it in both places. And clearly, first of all, let me tell you that one of the biggest tragedies Kashmiri Pandits have is, we talk about they are not unified, but that's not really the issue. I don't think any Indians are unified in any
Yeah.
community. So that's a lame excuse. What is
Yeah.
the real problem in our case is we don't have quality leadership. We don't have leadership actually that can think in strategic terms of what is going on and how best to take advantage of the situation on the ground. We don't have strategic. You'll say, Vijay, or you mean tell me there are not smart, intelligent people? Of course, Kashmiri
No,
Pandits.
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Leadership is
Kashmiri
different.
Pandits are probably in the fifth or
Yeah.
sixth richest group community in India, quite honestly. But the strategic leadership doesn't exist. They like to say things which are basically what they want to hear. I mean, it's almost the same way, in a way, sad way, in which, for example, Rahulji talks these days about Agniveer and all that, which is a topic, quite honestly, which is best left to the armies, because these are army decisions, military decisions. And but he knows he has a market for this kind of nonsense. And Kashmiri
Silliness.
Pandits talk the same way. Actually, uh, Mr. Amit Shahji actually met with Kashmiri Pandit leadership just before it was I believe May of, I have a date somewhere, May of 2019, just 2-3 months before Article 370 was removed. And he told them, and he had become the home minister, just before that. So 2018, he had become, yeah, he had become home minister. He met with his delegation. He met them at SKICC, the Kashmir International Conference Center, and he told them that our policy has four legs in it. The first leg is to get Kashmiri Pandits back. That we have to sort of meet these four objectives. The first objective is, we have to make sure that the aspirations of Kashmiri Pandits uh, will be the same in the valley as they can be anywhere outside the valley. So he didn't tell them the Article 370 is going to be removed, but he meant,
Obviously.
when you think about it, that's what he was trying to say. That I
Yeah.
want the constitutionality to be absolutely sort of common. You can get the same constitutional rights that you have, because that was one of the big things. Kashmiri Pandits were second class citizens under the existing structure. And a lot of people say, well, Article 370 already had been diminished because of that. Is true, but the problem is that the mindset wasn't. The mindset was still Article 370 is real, and you guys are B class citizens. You guys have, it's basically our place
Adesh,
to
yeah.
rule, and
Mm.
your place to listen to us. The second thing he said was, we got to get the terrorism out, and that will take some time, but there's no doubt that we have to essentially do it. And the third thing he said was, I got to get after that, we have to look at the investments that have to be made by attracting capital from, essentially primarily from Indian business houses, but even outside. And then we'll build up the infrastructure that will allow Kashmiri Pandits to return. Now, if you are intelligent and smart, you will understand right away that he is not looking at getting Kashmiri Pandits back in tomorrow. In
Yeah,
fact,
it's
he's
not
not.
going to happen. Mm.
In fact, none of us will be alive when that situation will arrive. But he is basically hoping that will. Now, he also told them, in the meantime, I am looking at ways we can make sure that the Kashmiri Pandit culture is preserved. And right now you have essentially Rashtriya Rifles and CRP protecting your asthans, and we won't have Kashmiri Pandits being around to do that kind of thing. And that was a structure. Now, you would think, after these people heard that, they will come out and they will. This was narrated to me by the way, by an official from Home Ministry. They would come out and they would say, here's what the Home Minister ji said. So how do we work? Well, what they did is they kept quiet. They said, "This is not what our Kashmiri Pandit community want to hear. They're looking for, how do I go now and now?
That's mm, mm,
And so they didn't talk about it.
mm,
So basically where we are today is, there's a general feeling there's a general feeling that the people that have already gone there's a prioritization now with the government. The prioritization is that the people who are already there, which is basically these 6,000 government employees and their families. Our number one goal is to see that they actually don't, they actually get rooted in Kashmir, that they don't leave Kashmir. So they are actually looking for land at very cheap rates that will be provided to those people to build their houses, so that they can actually, consider themselves to be the residents of the valley. Then they are also doing, in the same phase, structure where they basically have the prime minister's scheme for free housing for those people that are basically destitute. And one thing that they gave them the qualification, they said the money that you are getting from the government as a grant will not be considered as an income in making that decision. A very important thing. So if you are destitute, meaning you have no other income other than what the government is paying you on a monthly basis, then you will be considered in that quota, which will get free land and, in fact, free house. And there was a decision made other day that will be actually in Jammu, because in Kashmir there is not really that much of land available to build
yeah, it's
homes.
a small place.
There's a very so they will actually create that. And of course there's a turmoil now in the community. Why are they doing it in Jammu and all that? But there's no intelligent discussion in among the Kashmiri pundits to understand what the government rules are. The by and large, everybody else, quite honestly, is settled. Almost everybody has a home in Jammu, and people who have left Jammu, they are all in crore. Their properties are worth crore or more. Now you'll say, but don't I hear rhetoric about we gotta go back? Listen, I'm from that community. I have met those people the people who are making the loudest noises are the ones who are living in the biggest fanciest houses in Delhi and elsewhere. This is a catchy phrase. What they would like to do is, if they can have a summer home in Kashmir and keep their home. But you see, the problem is that land is a premium in Kashmir. There is really not much. So what government is doing is they're saying we'll encourage you to make cooperative societies. We'll help you with cooperative societies so that we can build something which will be protected also security wise, and you can be in there. So, but you guys go and take the initiative. You have to take the initiative of building those cooperative societies. We'll help with the infrastructure and other things. You register them. You show your commitment that you really want to come back to Kashmir, and we'll help you that. And actually, I am involved right now personally in a couple of those cooperative societies which are being gathered right now. There's a whole bit of procedure that you have to go through the, essentially through the housing board in the state to get that thing going. Now that's on one side. The other side is, I can also tell you, from Gupkar Road to Gandarbal, Kashmiri Pandits are building homes. And
Really?
and I would say my guess is somewhere between 50 and 80 homes are being under construction right now. But none of them want to talk because you know why they don't want to talk? They don't want to talk because they'll be ridiculed by the rest of the community. Because you have one set of community members who say we will never go back unless you don't give us a separate homeland or something like that. There's other group which says, unless you don't guarantee me there will not be a single death, I will not go back. I mean, there are all kinds of conditions. So the point is, people who really genuinely want to take their chances and want to go. But the government's purpose is the people who have already come there, they need to be actually, because they are the easiest. They
Yeah.
have decided to, because there will be always this continuous problem of other expectation among the communities. Will there be more jobs? Well, there is not going to be. This is not a government that basically will increase the state bureaucracy. I mean, we didn't get to be the third largest or fourth largest economy by creating,
Government jobs.
by enlarging bureaucracy. So they have what they have done is they have given them schemes. We have at least dozen schemes right now to attract people for with loans, startup options, seed money, even skills on which they will train you on skills. But none of our people are interested in those things. They want free land in Kashmir and they want a government job in Kashmir. So that is their
That's
right
the big problem.
return and rehabilitation purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's not going to work. I mean, government has done so many of those things. And I was reading, in the various camps in Jammu, there are four camp area, Muti and Nagrota and Jagti and all that. But they're not showing up there. They're not taking interest because they're not interested in it. They want government jobs and free land, and it's not going to happen. The funny thing is, there is Miss Haina Bhatt is in charge of the program there, and she gave in last week she had a press conference. She said, I have given like 80 crore rupees of loans and grants to entrepreneurs, and I'm asking one of the journalists in Kashmir, in Jammu, that hey, you are a journalist, go and ask her how many Kashmiri Pandits took advantage of. And he's shy. He says he knows that there are no Kashmiri Pandits took any of those offers. So the government is offering avenues for entrepreneurial business and all the things. Kashmiri Muslims are having a wonderful time because they don't see any challenges. Nobody else is coming in, so they are taking that seed money and doing their startups. So it's a sad process. I mean, so you can see I'm not exactly a very popular person right now in my community. So, but I really never wanted to be. I wanted basically to be the one who helps the people in the valley, and that's what really we're trying to. But there is effort being made to put up these
Mm.
cooperative societies, and some of these people are from Delhi, and I really think they're doing it because one of the problems that Kashmiri Pandits don't understand is at the end of the day, you cannot really be in Kashmir without having interaction with the community. That we know we have a lot of pain. We know how they dealt with us, how they denied it. In fact, I've done research. Why did they not like Kashmir files? Is it because they didn't want to know about, all the killings that
Happened.
took place? It turns out no, that is not their problem. Their issue is actually unsaid. Their issue is you showed Kashmiri Pandit, Kashmiri Muslim, local Kashmiri Muslims who were involved because their narrative is we were not involved in it. It was basically foreign mujahideen who came in
So it's
and
brushing
killed,
the
and
thing
then
off.
the
Yeah.
Indian army reacted, and who knows which agency killed who and whatnot. But we Kashmiri Muslims were not involved in any of that. That is their narrative, and that's why they are upset. So you can triple the killings of Kashmiri Pandits in the Kashmir files as long as you didn't show that there was local Muslim involvement in any of those killings or violence. You are okay. That is the point that bugs them. So it is, these things have to be, at the end of the day, having said that, though, I still have many good friends in Kashmir. I still have Kashmiri Muslims. I mean, three of them bought book in the last 2 days, and they're sending me the WhatsApp photograph of the cover that they have purchased. One person is actually trying to convince the bookseller, prime bookseller in Srinagar. His name is Gulshan Bookstore. Gulshan Bookstore. His name is Ajaz Sheikh, the owner, and they're trying to convince him to keep the book in his bookstore. He's telling everybody right now go to Amazon and buy it, but I think they will convince him because one or two of them tell me no, we will by August you will see the book will be there. So I've got friends there. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to deal with those people. I mean, if you want to go back to Kashmir, you cannot live in a bubble. You have to deal with those people. You have to find your friends. I mean, on the assumption that today you cannot tell today's child, Muslim child, your grandfather was involved in looting us, and so you are, as far as I'm concerned, you are as much culprit as your grandfather was. A long time has passed by, and things have to change. So I think that attitude is still not present in my community, unfortunately. And as I said, it would be if the leadership was of a little better quality. It's unfortunately not done very well there. I guess we have to live with our own circumstances there.
A Truth and Reconciliation Commission, something like that, where people sit down and talk and probably,
Well, see
work things out
see the
down the
thing.
line.
That's see the Truth and Reconciliation Commission would work if they would see. I already told you this is one of the big problems.
That's a big
And
problem.
yeah, they will. We will agree with them. Yes, there were excesses by the Indian Army because there's a record of and the police. I mean, there is actually there was a civil society group that was funded by the Soros organization in Kashmir. Now that fellow is in jail right now, but before Modi ji came, I mean, he was flourishing. He was going to Geneva and everywhere and all that,
Yeah.
giving the reports. Khurram Parvez. So Khurram is not. So Khurram actually has documented right down. I mean, he has names of the generals in his. If you look at his report, I have his report. He's named everybody. I mean, whether that's true or not. It's funny. One of the analysis. I'll give you a story. The which is also in the book. When I was active at UN and UN since UNHRC since UNHRC knew that I was not an Indian, I was an American, but knowledge of Kashmir. So there was one. They said, "Hey, we are just about to fund a organization in the valley. Will you audit them in their reports and their funds and all that?" I said, "Sure. I will go sometime. I'll go there, but more importantly, I don't need to go there. I have I have." And this they were supporting this Ahangar's organization, who started because her son disappeared in one of the pickups from the army, and so she created this organization for disappeared people, which was affiliated with Khurram Parvez's uncle. It was a lawyer. I don't remember his name right. What Khurram he was? Parvez Khurram. It was
That
Parvez
is.
Khurram. And then I find out very interestingly, in that report, they had gotten Parvez had put all these documentation of all the people, police people who had killed Muslims, but there was not a single mention of either the JK police or the Special Operations Group, which was really the main front organization that was killing, that was in charge of killing these dirty terrorists and shady characters. SOG was the prime organization, frontline organization, and he didn't have a single name of those people there. So he again kept this narrative going that no Kashmiri Muslim is involved in involved in this affair. This was all done
That
by
was,
so
yeah, also to
and
push
and,
down
and
the
so when I
narrative.
told them, they were shocked because they didn't know that. Then I also showed them how she has basically paid, how she's using half of that money to pay for his relatives who have got all these shady office duties, and the place they were very bad at that because they said that is absolutely against our rules and we will shut her money down, and they shut her money down after that. But the point is, even in those reports, they took the line that no Kashmiri Muslim police officer was involved in any of the in any of the violence against the civilian Kashmiri Muslims. So so you keep that in mind, and you realize truth and reconciliation. They will never. Well, we will probably agree that yes, some Indian officers or Indian policemen were involved in some of the unfortunate incidents. They will never agree that from their perspective, they will never accept the truth. They will basically come out and say, it was not
No, no,
us,
no.
it was
Yeah.
agencies, it was Pakistanis. So I don't really see, quite honestly. I mean, I have to make them accept. Do you accept Kashmir files? No, we don't accept Kashmir files. And I tell them but this is how the violence were. Yeah, but you're saying that Kashmiri Muslims. Well, we are of the opinion there was no Kashmiri Muslim was involved.
Yeah, well, reality of life, sir. Let me just
Really.
say this, sir. This is one of the best hours I've spent in a long time. Listening to you as a storyteller, and trust you me, it's a terrible story, but you've told it really, really well. It's something which is very easy to kind of, take in, because it's not something that we must ever forget, and that's something that I always say. This issues have been there. This is a very old nation, but a new country. There've been mistakes, there've been issues. There's a lot, and which other nation does not? But we must never forget and never, let the memory go off, because if the day we let the memory go off, that's the day we will repeat it again. So it's only because of people like you and your hard work that we will, and generations to come will kind of remember what the game is and what actually happened. So I'd really like to thank you for your efforts,
Yeah.
firstly.
Let me make one comment. Then I'll
Please.
go. One is that one of the common comments I have received back is that after Shri Jagmohan Malhotra's book, this is probably the second book which has the depth and detail to understand what really happened in
I'm
the
in touch
valley.
with you personally, so you will get my comments. Let me tell you
the,
that.
the second one is I want to tell people that I'm sort of peddling this book not for me, but for
No,
the
you must.
foundation to
You
which
must.
the payments will be made. That's the Cockney Foundation. Retired Commander Sanjay Kaul is doing it's a registered charitable organization in India, working with underprivileged and weaker section society, especially children, and both in Kashmir and outside. And it's a very noble cause. So if people buy the book, I mean, it's available also in the what's it
Kindle
called?
version as well.
No, I mean no, Amazon India, but it's also the Kindle version. But in
That's what.
Kindle version, unfortunately, it doesn't have enough value to
Yeah,
contribute to the
yeah,
to the
yeah.
royalty. So I am requesting people to actually buy the paperback.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
No,
Thank you for
I
giving
was
me
just
all
about
this.
to say that, sir, that please buy the sir's book, because mine is on the way, and I'm going to be obviously talk once I read it. I'm going to call sir back and actually go through a little more with sir, because today is probably an introduction. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time, and I'm it's an honor, firstly, to speak to you, and I'm so privileged that we got connected. And of course, I would just like to say the story has just begun. We will keep in touch and we will keep talking about these issues going forward, trying to build a consensus and trying to bring in peace in a very, very troubled area of this country. Thank you, and Jai
Thank you
Hind.
very much. Thank you to listeners also. Bye bye.